I'm Spiros Kyriacopoulos from the organizing committee of Open Conference. Today, I have the great honor to be presenting to you Diomidis Spinellis, who is a keynote speaker at this year's Open Conf event that will be held on the 15th of December. So, Diomidis, welcome to OpenConf.
Hello, I'm very happy to be with you.
Diomidis, where to begin? You are a professor at the Department of Management, Science and Technology at the Athens University of Economics and Business, and for many years an active member of the IEEE Software Editorial Board. You also stand out for your expertise in software architecture, winner of international C language contests early in your career, and as a great author of books in software programming. Would you like to tell us some more things about you, highlights of your career, and I guess talk a bit about your love and passion for programming?
Sure. So my career started with programming. I've been programming for more than 30 years, starting with BASIC and 88 assembly, graduating to Pascal, C, moving to scripting languages with Perl, advancing to C++, Java, Python, and nowadays also JavaScript. In between, I also managed IT systems at the Greek Ministry of Finance, at the General Secretariat of Information Systems, and I spent some time as a senior site reliability engineer at Google. I try to be in contact with programmers by writing books. For instance, my most recent book is Effective Debugging, which describes 66 ways to debug software and systems. I also love developing tools and working with them, especially on the Unix and Linux platform. Early as a student, I wrote the stream editor set of Unix as an open source program. It's still distributed with Apple's Mac OS. In between, I contributed code to the FreeBSD operating system. And recently, I created a course, massive open online course on Unix tools, how to use them effectively for software development and data analytics and systems engineering. As you said, I've been involved with the IEEE Software magazine. As a member of the editorial board, I authored the Tools of the Trade column, giving advice to software practitioners for about 10 years, and then moved on to serve as the magazine's editor-in-chief for a number of years.
So many things you've done. It's amazing. Uh, Tell me a little bit more about the students and what advice would you offer to young software developers entering the IT industry?
We're very lucky to be living in and working in an area where everything advances. We have better technologies, more interesting systems, new challenges every day and every year. So my main advice would be to manage change in the sense of continuously acquiring new skills, learning, often by contributing to other work outside your work, challenging yourself with new technologies, new tools, new systems that you learn, and also challenging yourself to improve the quality of your work. I, as I said, continue to program. Every time I look at a piece of code that I write, I try to think, how could I write this to be more maintainable, more efficient, and more readable? And these are things we should be doing throughout our career.
Those are great tips, definitely. Uh, so, do you see potential for growth in the Greek information technology and telecommunication sector and our region becoming an IT hub, maybe in the southeastern Europe?
Throughout my life up to now, I have been trying to show, test, and prove that one can have a good career in Greece, equivalent to one that can take place in any part of the world. But, and of course, I'm biased, living in one of the most beautiful countries in the world. This creates the basis for this growth that you mentioned. Think there is a great growth potential, which is evidenced by the demand for IT professionals. Almost every week, I have some person I know from a company contacting me, asking to where they can find good developers. And this is showing that there is a large demand and growth in the area. by the way, my advice to those companies is to cooperate with universities through the internship program to get people while they are students and start a cooperation with them. Also, companies need to invest more on people to lure them back in Greece, or those that are in Greece, persuade them to stay in Greece, because nowadays companies are competing for talent around the globe. Also, universities need to focus on developing graduates with the skills and the knowledge that the practitioners and the companies require.
Let's discuss a bit also about open source as a movement. How important is the democratization of access to technologies and how it all connects to the empowerment of programming communities in the Greek IT world in general?
I find that open source software has changed in many ways our work. It's a fundamental force nowadays. It started as a fringe phenomenon, but nowadays it's absolutely mainstream and very important for a number of reasons. One of it is that it has lowered the cost of the technologies that we use, even down to zero. So, considering what was the case when I started my career, it was difficult to get access to a compiler, to a professional advanced operating system, to a database system. And for those reasons, a lot of work happened on substandard infrastructure. I remember companies used to develop their own database management systems, which were primitive column stores. So we get excellent components on which to build, and this makes us also more professional because you can use the best technologies available. Another advantage of open source is that all these things that we see around us are open for us to examine. So we can go into the kernel of an operating system, see how a compiler is structured, see how an editor is built, and learn from excellent code that others have built. Of course, not all open source software is of high quality, but there are many, many gems around in all languages and types of applications from which we can learn and become better developers. This was the idea behind my books Code Reading and Code Quality that I wrote, which teach us how to read existing code and how to determine the quality of existing code through hundreds of examples that directly point to lines in open source software. Also, by contributing to open source software, and I think all of us as developers should be doing this regularly, it helps us to acquire new skills. So if you use a system and you think that it can be improved in a particular way, challenge yourself to go find its code, download it from GitHub, build it, and then change it and contribute back as a pull request that change in order to improve that tool. This can be very easy. I've had cases where a change I contributed was integrated overnight, over a weekend, to difficult cases where I've been battling for a change for more than a year in Thunderbird, for example. But that specific small contribution is a command that I'm using now tens of times every day. So it really helps us to grow as professionals by contributing to open source software. The final advantage of open source software, which is growing in the past decade, is the building of ecosystems. We have powerful package managers, which allow us to build software through components that depend on each other and manage those components, their dependencies, and their upgrades. This wasn't possible some years ago, but nowadays this allows us to contribute and develop very sophisticated ecosystems where we can all contribute and build increasingly complex and more powerful applications through these package managers. Think of NPM, for example, in the JavaScript world, or Maven in the Java world.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your presentation on this year's Open Conference. Would you like to share a few teaser points about it?
Yes, I will be discussing about designing for computer security, which is against the trend that we are seeing of continuously patching software in order to make it secure. This doesn't lead anywhere. The idea behind my talk is security by design. how we can design software so that it is secure. And things I will touch upon is how we can handle trust, what's the difference between authorization and authentication and how they should be provided and implemented, how we should handle cryptography in our systems, and things like that. So I will be focusing on design and principles rather than minute changes in the code that might fix a particular bug and security vulnerability in the system, but might leave the system as a whole still vulnerable.
Thank you so much, Diomidis, for all these valuable ideas and thoughts that you shared with us today. And we're looking forward to your talk at the event on the 15th of December. And we hope to see everyone there during the event. Take care.
Thank you very much for hosting me and inviting me to the conference. And I'm looking forward to presenting at the conference.